It's a great honor for me to introduce Daniel Fetzner. Daniel Fetzner is a professor of artistic research at Offenburg University, where he teaches media design, ethics and film, and he is the head of the Laboratory for Media Ecology. His artistic journey includes visiting professorships at institutions such as San Francisco State University, the German University in Cairo, and the Srishti Institute of Art, Design and Technology in Bangalore. As a founding member of the artistic research group M-Body, Daniel explores the intersection of media, the body and philosophy. In his research, he uses interactive film and elements of Marxism, Dadaism and Surrealism to explore new paths of social and cultural practice. Daniel's work is a speculative journey towards understanding the terrestrial in the sense of Bruno Latour, with whom Fetzner collaborated in the exhibition Critical Zone at ZKM Karlsruhe. His approach pushes the boundaries of artistic research and also invites a re-evaluation of our relationship with the environment and technology. And you will talk today about your latest project, Becoming River. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Florian, Vanessa, Tobias, for inviting me again this year to give a talk, and I will talk about a sandbox. I brought it with me, and this sandbox I had to treat efficiently because I had just 2 weeks. Within the last 2 weeks, I did what you see today. It's not just me, it's a we, like Florian was asking for, who is the we this morning, and the we of us is the Lab for Media Ecology at my University for Applied Sciences in Offenburg, and there's Ephraim Wegner, an electronic musician, and Adrian Schwarz, a filmmaker, and the three of us, we produced this sandbox experiment about sensory ethnography and a little river in the southwest of Germany between Freudenstadt and Rastatt, which is called the Murg. And we are doing some reflective practicing about the River Murg within an Interreg project, Climability Care. So it's about care and about floodings of the Murg River. And I called this talk Becoming River as an exploratory study about the zero-person perspective by Timothy Morton. So the question is, how can we get rid of the human perspective in a way? Of course we can't get rid of that, but how can we get onto eyesight with the things in a way? So this research is embedded in a larger research cycle, artistic research, which is called Deglobalize, and it's a search movement for the terrestrial in the sense of Bruno Latour, like Florian mentioned right now. So it's asking metaphorically where to land, où atterrir, as Latour called it, and in atterrir is already the terra, the terrestrial. So how can we get into a new relationship towards our Earth? And I want to mention 3 preliminary works for this little study that I'm going to introduce or present today. So this is a very early preliminary work of mine, which I made in 1990. And I took washed up material at the river Elbe in Pirna. So in the last millennium, that was during my architectural studies, and I was working with object trouvés or échauffés, object échauffés, and built up an architectural design. So this reminded me to Becoming River, to the experiment that I'm talking today. The second preliminary work is part of our internet interactive archive, Deglobalize, and that was an interview that I did with Graham Harman, on object-oriented ontologies and his approach to new materialism and flat ontologies, how he calls that, in the Garbage City in Cairo. That is already 7 years ago, I think in 2016. And so he was talking about his understanding of objects and his understanding of materiality. And we did it in the middle of the garbage workers sorting plastic, and it was recorded with 360 video, and it's part of that internet archive of Deglobalize. A river can be seen as a kind of an hyper-object. Hyper-object is a term by Timothy Morton, the guy who came up with the term of zero-person perspective that we are looking for. And the third preliminary was an experiment that we did 3 years ago. We took still under the question where to land, Uateria. That was the flight of a stratospheric balloon, which was recorded with 360 video, and we took the question literally in this sense, or in this case. In this topological picture experiment, we neither hold all threads in our hands, nor they all run towards us, but we are nevertheless completely entangled within these strings, within the conditions of our being, or human being. Now, one outcome of this experiment was a spline, the flight trace of the object. And this spline is, of course, unpredictable and, in a way, irrational. In some parts, it was a spiral, kind of a vortex. And this spline can be combined with the River Morgue, for instance, which was created within the last 40 million years. And within our 3-year research that we do on the River Morgue and the floodings, we will do some agential cuts. And the first agential cut was the experiments that we did on the weekend with this sandbox at the Red Morgue, which is the source of the river. So a river reminds to meandering form. There is this early graphic de la Beche, der geologische Beobachter, from 1852, and Volker Demuth wrote a book last year, Meander, and an inspiring book, where he reflects what that means, meandering line in comparison to a straight line. This quote sounds in my ear like a meshwork by Tim Ingold, like how we are entangled within the world. And since Aristotle's metaphysics accorded the straight line as a superior position to the curved one. So this is one root of our thinking. It has been part of the recurring deformation of the meander to brand the figures of deviation as pliable, adaptive, and opportunistic, like the snake, the meandering snake, but also insidious, chaotic, and evil. The River Morgue, so these are the recordings from the last weekend, and the sound check, which is done by Ephraim Wegner, by the sound artist, starts as a meandering. It's not a straight line, and so just to give you some impression of how this gets into a move. And then we dealt with, since we are doing this Interact project in the Upper Rhine Valley, if you work there and you deal with rivers, you deal of course with the Rhine, and this is the Tulla plan from 1850 by Tulla, the rectification of the Rhine. Rivers can be viewed from very different perspectives, as a line in the landscape, as the veins of a water system, or as an artery of a biological habitat. And what Tulla did is he made the Rhine more efficient, by shortening it by 80 kilometers from Basel to Mannheim. He saved 80 kilometers, and for good reasons, so less epidemics and better for transport. And so in the sense of our modern thinking and of our understanding of how to do things, you see a lot of rectangular lines in this room as well. This is quite consequent to do it like this. Of course, other things were destroyed by, like the Meander was destroyed. But it fits into the time, so this is a famous information graphic by Colton and Company, comparing the order of things, in this case rivers. The great meandering rivers from Amazon to the Severn as comparable lines from the right to the left. So he stretched the rivers to make them somehow comparable without losing their characteristics. And we end up with the river as Rhine, forced into linearity, and in the same days as Tulla did his, realized his plan, or the plan of Großherzogtum Baden, BASF, Bayer and Höchst are founded in 1860. So you see the clear connection of industrialization, of modernity, and of this linearity. This came also into my mind. This is the slit scan experiment, the linear movement from the spring to the Black Sea of the Danube River by Michael Aschauer. He did a reenactment of his 2005 experiment last year. And you have got that linear split of the meander of the Danube River. Going back, I want to jump to another context, not Aristotle, but India. So this is a map of India, 1845. River is mapped as a rhizome, and according to Deleuze, a rhizome is a network that connects any point to any other point. It's still tree-like, but the original Indian mapping of the Ganges that you've seen before, out of the 17th century, refers to the Sanskrit word Sindhu, which stands for ubiquitous wetness. And that is a totally different understanding of water. It's an ubiquitous wetness, which refers also to the southwest monsoon, so you don't know where the water starts and where it ends. So there is no clear border or not a clear line of the river. It's part of the body, it's part of humidity and of the air, and this implies another thinking of the river. The meaning of Sindhu ranges from the raindrop of the monsoon until the ocean. In this understanding, materiality, practically and philosophically, is lived on wetness, rather on land serviced by water. No pipes, canals, gutters and drains. With the monsoon, air thickens, the soil saturates, which increases the tempo of life and death. We are just at the beginning of this sandbox, and some graphics came into my mind, and I did not really reflect them to the end, but these are traces that we want to go on thinking. So life is knotted with a story. That is Tim Ingold. or interactive documentary has a topological dimension. It's dealing with knots. Knots and bifurcations, bridges. According to Michel Serres, these are parasitic phenomena. Yeah? Of course, it also has a terrestrial dimension. It can be considered as a fold in the sense of Deleuze. The fold offers a way to analyze and conceptualize thinking through the lens of three integrated operations: explication, implication, and complication. So we discussed briefly complication and how to reduce complexities. We do not want to decrease, but want to increase complexity. And therefore the philosophy of Michel Serres helps. We don't want to make things easier than they are. They are complicated, and therefore we have to deal with meanders again and with folds. So Deleuze is as an inspiration, and the topology, as I said before, the starting point, or one starting point for our search for the zero-person perspective or a flat ontology, is Michel Serres' concept of a wild topology. Serres views bridges as topological key operators in all cultural processes of separating and connecting. That has most probably to do also with decision-making that we discussed before with Tobias. So it's the question of bifurcations. And there Serres refers to Leonhard Euler's well-known thought experiments on the Königsberg-Pregel bridges, and understands the bridges as a structural crossing. Yeah? Going back to the Venetians, which are experts in bridging and building bridges, and thereby coming to the labyrinth and to the Northwest Passage, which is his central metaphor for thinking and also for artistic research, in a way. Another inspiring traffic that I found was by Paul Klee, and this could help us maybe to discuss the difference between linear thinking and non-linear thinking. So he's dividing three zones: the linear zone, the area zone, and the medial zone, in 1925, so that's 99 years ago. Or, so the line active, the line passive, the area active, the area passive, and the medial zone he thinks like a cloudiness. Yeah? So he calls it cloudiness, so that is wetness, so that is undifferentiated, that is not decided. Yeah, it's an open space, and maybe it's a noise in the sense of Shannon Weaver and his communication model, and the noise in the sense of Serres is the decisive impulse on the message. Yeah? Yeah, of course, if you deal with a river, you come up with Heraclit, and the old Greeks hear and speak about a river. For them, hearing or speaking about a river is to think of flow and see lines. Temporarily, the river has a measurable before and an after. And so Heraclit deals with the natural process of constant becoming and change, becoming river. He uses the river as a central metaphor. No man ever steps in the same river twice. We are existing in an ongoing metabolism and mode change. We should see the whole as less than the sum of its parts. That's the answer of Timothy Morton in an article that he published in 2017. So that is against an illusion of a seamless whole. That was the quote that we just heard by Martin, by Caroline Seo. So, and it's against the Gestalt laws that are taught most probably in this building as well, to focus on the parts and not on the whole. Yeah? Because I would say there is no whole. everybody who deals with flat ontologies and new materialism would say there is no whole. That's an illusion. And it's hard to stand, but that helps us also to deal in a different way with complexity, and maybe not to make them easier, makes things easier than they are. The river is not a whole, but less than the sum of its parts, one could say, and this fits, in my understanding, to the body without organs concept of Artaud, which denies the whole, the functional, the efficient functioning whole, in a way as well. And it's against this idea of monotheism, which we still stick to, which comes up. There is some central order, there has to be some central rationality. Okay, now about the experiment that we did on the weekend. We were observing high water and floodings at the River Murg, and I did this recording at Christmas, and I observed these little sticks here, and this, they were in a little vortex, not in the stream, but besides the stream, and so I dealt with Flotsam, with Treibgut. The expert call it Geschwämsel in German, which is a nice word. And there is 1,000 cubic meter Geschwämsel every year at the River Murg. And so we built, or I built that last week, this little probe with a 360 camera, and I attached some soil from our critical earth lab in Bangalore and from a performance that we did in Cairo, Nile Voodoo, and we stitched that to the probe and went to the source of the River Murg on Saturday and threw it in, and it worked out somehow, and there was no GPS tracking. But Adrian was standing in the Murg and we were lucky, so we could catch it. And it was built in a way that it gets also stuck somewhere, so deliberately, because it's always about the question of où atterrir is where you get stuck in a way, where you land. And so we had several quite poetic moments where this this little probe landed and got stuck. Unfortunately, I have a sound problem also for the little performance part that I want to do in a second. Okay, here you see the probe, and in fact, we really lost it, and then there was a canoe guy.
Das ist super lieb. Das ist ein Forschungsprojekt von der Hochschule Offenburg, EU, und die ist uns gerade vorgegangen.
And that guy helped us. He came by, and he found it. It's a 500 euro 360 cam, and so we were really lucky. Okay, the first experiments that we did, we made this little planet projections, you could call it. It's called stereographic projections, going back to Ptolemaios, and Rubens used this method in his painting. And this is a tool that we developed ourselves for electronic concerts, and that is one of the first outcomes for the sandbox. There is a motion tracker built in there with a battery, and we take the 360 material and put it into this tool that was programmed by Ephraim Wegner, the sound artist. It's an open framework, C++, machine learning, clustering. It got trained by a dancer to the kinesthetic scheme of Laban, and there are 240 sound files mapped on the sphere. So this is a beginning. I always send some of you a link on a smartphone, and the one who received, I heard it landed in the, in the spam folder of this university, but get it out of the swamp, out of the spam, and make it work. You just click on start. Unfortunately, I won't have sound from here, because the idea is to have the sound from here additionally to your sound, but maybe that is even better if you do it like this. I just have to change the display. Okay. So this is the application, and this is the sensor built into this little sphere. And it's a pity that the sound here is not working, because the sound reacts directly to how I move the sphere, and 240 sound files are played back and mixed live. Now I can talk a lot, you can't hear it, yeah? But unfortunately it's not working. Anyway, so you can change the perspectives and step into the river morgue. And so these are experiments in order to get on eye level with the things. And I could talk a lot now about theory and so on. I write that in a paper. I think that was enough input, and we can come to questions and comments.